Lesbians, have you ever locked eyes with someone and felt instant soul recognition? I can think back to one time that I did, and it was a powerful relationship. For me, the relationship nearly destroyed me. For the women we get to talk to today, it's brought them so much life. And as a woman who is single at the time of recording this episode, I love hearing what's possible, what kind of love is possible out there. That's what this show is all about. Welcome to Queer Women Rising, where I phone my lesbian friends, talk about queer love, how to dodge the dating drama, and embrace the peaceful connections we all deserve. I'm SophiaSpallino, your lesbian host. And before we dive in, I just want to share what's new in the world. We're recording this right before Valentine's Day, and I'm processing, still going through a breakup. I am on like week 5, and there are moments where I really miss the life that I planned with her. I hesitate to say her because, well, there are moments when I do miss her. But I think what I've learned throughout all this is sometimes people are exactly who we perceive them to be. And so for a time, I perceived her to be one way. And in order to let go, I'm able to perceive and process the wholeness of who we both are and why it didn't work, and that it's okay. And I wish her the best. But doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. Her birthday also just passed, and that made me sad. It made me sad not to be able to be like, happy birthday. But you know what? These are the times when we get stronger and we push past and we trust that God has a reason for everything. And on the other side of this, not only is there the love of my life, but there is the love of her life. And I wish that for her. Okay, let's talk about what's new in Queer Country Club. We had an AI matchmaking glitch, which as the creator of a lesbian dating platform, I have to make sure our AI is just popping to match the women inside, keep everybody getting matched with future wives. And we matched based on values and some physical preferences. And we had a little glitch. And it was the first time my AI matchmaker was down. She was down for a week, and I was in the depths of despair working with my developers all week. But we got Sapphic Sophie back up and running. Yes, the AI matchmaker's name is Sapphic Sophie, like the AI version of me, and she's so cute. Anyway, women inside of Queer Country Club are able to continue chatting with her, tell her your preferences, and get her to match you with women inside. Now, I am not ready to date. However, because we had this glitch, I end up being, me and my team all tested Sapphic Sophie. And let's just say I had a really accurate match. And when I'm ready to date, I will definitely be reaching out to this woman in particular inside of Queer Country Club. And I'm really excited to know how good it works for myself. Like, obviously we've tested her, but for me to go in and it hit different because I am single now. And I could actually test this with like, oh my gosh, like, what do I think of her? It's pretty cool. So when I'm ready to date again, I will be in my own lesbian dating club, my own lesbian dating platform, the Queer Country Club. And if you are single, I invite you to go to queercountryclub.com and apply, or shoot me a DM on Instagram if you have any questions at SophiaSpallino. Okay, let's get into talking about love, the kind of love that finds you when you least expect it. Today's guests fell in love under mystical circumstances at a retreat. Zsuzsi and Ziron met under mystical circumstances at a retreat, and they became life partners. And now they're not just together in love, but they're together as mentors in love and self-discovery. Through their work at Sacred 8 Roadshow, they help queer women clear those emotional blocks, rewire limiting beliefs, and build the kind of love that feels like home. You guys know it, the kind of love we all want to manifest. Can we manifest it? What does it take to manifest a love like this? How do you get ready for it? Let's find out. Welcome to the show, Zsuzsi and Ziron. I'm so glad to have you here.
Oh my gosh, we're so excited. Thank you so much for having us.
It has been so inspirational and beautiful to see you in my feed, both when I was in a happy, healthy relationship and now being single again. To be able to witness such a beautiful love is powerful. It shows us what's possible. And I think there's two types of people in the world, or maybe there's only one type and then they evolve. But people see a beautiful relationship and they can be a little triggered by it. Or they see a beautiful relationship and they know what's possible for them because they believe in it or they're already in it. And so we are speaking to those women who are ready to believe that this is possible for them. And if you're not there yet, I invite you to challenge yourself to move through it in this episode, because we are going to hear so much divine love between these two. Okay, before we get into the love, I put the L in the LGBTQIA. So I'm curious, what are the letters of the alphabet soup that you two identify with?
What are you, babe?
Well, I think the word lesbian was really hard for me at first, but not because of any other reason than I wasn't sure if I was like allowed to belong to this super like amazing club, if you will. I just have been actually my whole life like really a part of the LGBTQIA plus community as an ally for a really long time. And you guys will hear our story, so this will make a little bit more sense. But I always saw myself as kind of on the periphery looking in and being like, oh, that it looks so nice in there.
Because it is nice in here.
And I worked in fashion for many years, so I had a lot of gay friends and spent most of my 20s in gay clubs, going to Pride, celebrating queer voices. I was a huge fan of the L word. There were signs.
There were signs.
That's a major sign. Like, I'm extremely gay and
Better than I did.
Oh no. Yeah, that's a big one.
And yet there was a part of me that still felt like I didn't belong, that there was compet is real.
Yeah.
It really was a layer of conditioning that I could not get through. And so there was a time in my life where there was kind of a fork in the road. And I took the path more traveled just because it was my default. You know, I present very femme. I am a girly girl. Pink is my favorite color. Like, I must be straight, right? So to...
Ziron's like, no, she's up in it. She ain't straight at all.
She's probably more lesbian than I am.
So now I get to call myself a lesbian, and I don't take it lightly, right?
Yeah.
It's very sacred to me to be able to say those words out loud and like own it.
Yeah. I feel that's so hard because I came out at 30. Between 28 and 30 is where I went from like bi to I'm a lesbian. So I get that. How old were you when you realized?
40.
I love it. Well, we're so glad you're here. And what about you, Ziron?
My whole life, everyone said it was always written across my forehead, and I finally saw the flag print about 21. So
Okay.
my whole adult life, basically, I've identified as a lesbian.
I love it. I love it. Now, your journey is wild. What's the stories that ultimately led you to each other? We're gonna spend most of the time talking about the love story, but real quick, what's like the pre-backstory up to the night you met in New York?
Do you want to go first?
So I think it was really started with the personal development and working on myself and the inner work of, coming out of a very toxic situation that I'd spent 8 years in and basically lost my entire identity with it. So coming out of that and really when I commit to something, I go all in. So I just immersed myself in the self-improvement world where I was doing inner work, going to retreats, getting into the spiritual community, finding my soul family, and being surrounded by that. And through that process, I was, as I was healing, I was awakening myself to the possibility of us meeting. So I really credit doing all the work to leading to that point and opening this destiny portal for us.
I love that. Inside of Queer Country Club, my lesbian dating club, I often tell women, like, you can think you're ready, but are you ready on the inside to actually be the kind of person that could hold love? And that is what we do with the coaching, which I'm so excited to have you ladies come coach for us inside of Queer Country Club very soon. But it's the work leading up to the relationship that really, really matters. So even though you were very secure in your sexuality a lot sooner than Zsuzsi, it sounded like there was a lot more work to be done. And we all know the toxic relationships that can make you bring out the very worst of you. We all have shadow sides, but it sounds like you went through.
Perfect. The relationship was exactly what it needed to be in order to get me to where I am today. Because I never would have taken that dive and really looked at all my triggers and all of my insecurities and what was really leading those and what was the root problem. So going through that and really being pushed to do a deeper dive on myself was perfect. I couldn't ask for. She did her job perfectly.
I'm curious if you're comfortable sharing like just a couple things that happened in that relationship that pushed you to the end of it, because a lot of women end up on the show because they're going through breakups. And my dad always told me every time I go through a rough breakup, he's like, but God has your person like right on the other side of you leaving the thing that's not good for you. And I believe it. I truly believe it. It's always one step closer. But in that moment where you're going through turmoil, whether it's heartbreak right after or literal just like gaslighting circles, craziness during a toxic relationship, you need to have the faith that it's going to get better and it's worth it to actually leave. Because sometimes the discomfort of being in something bad for you is still more comfortable than being alone. At least I recognize that fear come up for me. So what was it for you that was like, these are the last straws, like I can't do this relationship anymore, if you're comfortable sharing?
Yeah, well, I definitely had the moments of, I would rather just try to stick this out. I kept trying to prove my love to her and prove that I was worth loving. And I just kept going through these different cycles, and somewhere at some point she goes, you need therapy, in one of those gaslighting moments. And I'm like, I do. And so I was like, well, fine, I'll try it. I'm try anything. And I thought therapy it was great. It's great for some people, right? But for me, it was more of it felt like it was just a venting session. But there was one great thing that came from that. And it was that moment where the therapist said to me, do you recognize the similarities between this and your mom?
Ooh, yes.
Now, just because there's something a little different doesn't mean that this new relationship is good. So, and she was like, so you're comfortable in this pattern because you know this pattern from childhood. So from that point, it was a matter of just taking these baby steps to work myself out of it. And there was always this little part of myself that kept going, you deserve better. What do you need to do to get back to you? And in the process of thinking you're getting back to yourself, you're really becoming that new version of yourself. Because you're never really going backwards, you're going forward. So I started with taking walks, and I started with just recognizing the patterns that I was having in the complicit behaviors, and listening to her gaslight me and recognizing when she was gaslighting me, and I stopped trying to defend myself against it, and just the little baby steps, and to the point of one day it just broke out in a rage, and she
You don't have to go if you feel uncomfortable.
she kicked me out that night in like the middle of the night in one of her rages, and I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And now there was still that back and forth for a while, because your brain, it takes your brain a while to really catch on to what's happening. But I do credit myself that I never actually went fully back after that. I got
Good
my
for you.
confidence. I started the self journey of mentorships through the Theo program. I don't know if you ever heard of Theo. And then I just continued my journey from that point. Like I said, I just fully immersed myself into figuring out my issues, and knowing that I still wanted a partner.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to be single. I was learning to be single, which is fine and it's great. And at some point I learned that in one of those mentorship programs that I had to turn it on myself, and I had to start giving myself everything that I wanted in a relationship.
Yes, that's so good. So good. And something that I'm learning in this season of singleness too. Thank you for sharing. What about you, Zsuzsi?
Well, so I started a little bit earlier because there was a lot of turmoil in my life as well. Like, if you know anything about a Saturn return,
Yeah, it's all
around
about
30, which is where you're in.
I just came out of it. It's been a good time.
Yeah, so mine was particularly bumpy, let's just say. And what Ziron was really expressing is this sunk cost fallacy that we live in relationships, wherein you believe that if you've invested X amount of time, energy, love into somebody, then you have to keep going, because otherwise that's lost somehow. And the truth is, you will take all of those lessons forward with you. And especially in my Saturn return, so I was married to a man. It was extremely unsatisfying, shocking. And I supplemented with another man. I stepped outside of my marriage, which is totally incongruent with my own way of being. I didn't even recognize myself after a time, because I just felt like I was going against my own moral compass on such a deep level, having done that. But the truth was that because I had stepped out of the marriage, my perception was I must have just married the wrong person, meaning the person that I was having the affair with was supposed to be then the one. And it was a pretty prototypical affair wherein I spent years trying to get him to commit to me instead, so that I could just leapfrog from one relationship to the next. And then they both fell apart.
That is really vulnerable of you to share. I want you to know your energy is the energy of a trustworthy woman, and that does not define you. I know you know it, but like deep in my soul, I just see you as like this woman who would never But I also can say I get that. And I don't know if this was your reason, but looking back at why I would jump from relationship to relationship with men, even though, as you said, it was deeply unsatisfying, it always came back to comfort and being like, oh, but more male attention could cure this deeply unsatisfying feeling. I didn't know that's what I was doing, but the more attention equals more security. To me, that was what I was taught to search for as a Southern religious woman. So I can see parallels there, even though I didn't step outside of my marriage. I did step outside of my last relationship with a man with his permission to be with a woman. And then I realized how satisfying that was. And I was like, okay, bye-bye. But this all makes so much sense to me. And yeah, just know that I know you know who you are. But if this is any confirmation and affirmation to you, is that the world sees you as who you really are, which is totally trustworthy and just radiant. So thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that.
Yeah, thank you. You know, it was like the thing that I felt the deepest shame about
Yeah.
because, like I said, it went against my own moral compass. But I, I have since started my own coaching practice and have been on this healing journey for a long time and have been out in the world sharing my experience. And I find that the more I have shared it, the less charge it holds. And I have shared this particular piece of my story many times, and I have gotten such an outpouring of not support necessarily, obviously that too, but people then sharing with me some of their deep, dark, shameful, quote unquote, things that they have done in the name of trying to make themselves happy and realizing that they were out of integrity with themselves and how feeling less alone in this very taboo, very, very taboo subject matter. Because especially for women, there's this perception that it's always the men who step out. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that that's true at all. It's in the name of trying not to hurt someone else, ironically, that we tend to seek the love and validation that we're not getting in our relationship in order to keep that relationship. As like backwards as that is, I just like the mental gymnastics and the hoops you have to jump through in order to justify it while you're doing it starts to create this whole other reality that when that bubble pops finally and you're kind of like looking around your life going like, what have I done? And like, what have I allowed? And this is just not who I am or who I want to be. Yeah. That's when you really like, unfortunately, most of us do have to hit rock bottom in order to start growing from that darkness. But the seeds are all there. And if you can help yourself and pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you will know for the rest of your life that you can do anything. Because I thought that was going to kill me. I truly did. I thought that that situation was going to be the death of me. And when I didn't die from it, I was like, oh, amazing.
Yeah. And I think unless you've been in a love triangle situation, when you risk everything and lose both relationships, you hit rock bottom on another level, because one was like your security and one was like your dream, and you were living in this fantasy world. And yeah, it hits. It's different. I have my own experiences with that. I will probably one day share them. Rough times. So I feel you so hard. I'm so glad that you guys found each other after all this turmoil. Isn't that how it goes? That's how it goes. I want to encourage, there's someone out there listening to that and they needed to hear that exact message. Please message Zsuzsi and tell her how grateful you are for sharing her story. That was so vulnerable, and I know about it. It touched your heart. It touched my heart. It was something that I needed to hear. I know someone else out there needs to hear it. Like, the past you does not define you. Even if your story's not exactly the same as hers, exactly, there's something, it's pulling at you. I can feel it. Okay. Now bring me back to that night where you guys are in a healthy state. You're in upstate New York and you meet each other. What was that like? And yeah, like, give me the play-by-play, and also like how you were feeling if you weren't out of the closet yet, or were you, that sort of thing. Yeah. Give us the context.
So the retreat was August 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And I was there with my best friend. So I got there a day early because we like to do that and get situated and set up and everything. And I remember just going into this retreat thinking, I don't even know if I want to be here. Like, I had been through so much in the last 6 months that I had done this roller coaster, and now I'm on this really high vibe, loving life, loving being single, got all these plans going forward. I'm just so excited about life. And my best friend's like, you have to go with me. Let's just go hang out with all of our friends. And I'm like, okay, fine, I'll go. So we go, we're hanging out. So the first night we're just there by ourselves. And then the second night is so Friday night is when the retreat actually starts. And we begin, go ahead, where did you come in? Like, I'm already there. So I'm there hanging out with everybody, sitting on the back patio, having some drink, water, because that's me. But I mean, I'm having a good time. I'm enjoying my time with my friends and enjoying the fact that I get to spend the whole weekend with my soul family and in this high vibe environment. So I'm in a good.
Not a queer retreat, just like a spiritual.
It's a spiritual retreat.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had been invited to the retreat in Mount Shasta, where I live in California at the time, and it perfectly lined up for when I was wrapping up teaching at the Omega Institute, which is like an hour away from the retreat. And I was like, okay, I'm paying attention, Spirit. Like, you want me at this retreat. The dates are just too aligned. It's too perfect. It's too easy. And I basically drive onto this property and I just hear a voice saying to me, I receive, I receive, I receive. Like, be open to whatever's coming. And I just knew that it was going, before I had even left to go to the East Coast, I had been saying, like, I'm coming back a different person. I'm going to this life-changing experience. Like, I don't know what's happening. We're just going to meditate, right? So I remember being very excited, like coming off this high. I love teaching. I just taught for 5 days straight. It was wonderful. And it was a dream come true, actually. So I was like, how much higher can I get? And then the first night they ask us to sit in this circle and they pass a mic around and they ask everybody to share their name and why they're there. And somebody passes Ziron the mic and she very honestly says, I don't know why I'm here. And I thought that that was very refreshing, first of all, but also I was like, who is that? Like, my antenna was up. I was like, there's something about her and her voice feels so familiar and her face is so kind. I just want to get to know her. I just want to know what her
We're going to be friends.
We're going to be friends. So after that circle happens, I walk right up to her and we start talking, and we're like maybe lingering a little too long.
I had been so we had taken a break after that circle, and I'd been walking out the back door onto the back deck into the backyard, and I feel this energy come in from the right side of me, and it was so strong that my entire body turned around to see what it was, and it was her walking up to me. So when she walked up and we started talking, I was like, I remember hearing her name and going, okay, well, that's a difficult name. I could probably relate to that with my last name. So I start talking and I just start spilling my name and everything. So that allowed her to remember my name. And then I start thinking, she's talking to me a little bit longer than what's normal for the first time you meet someone. What's going on here? So,
or you like, could she be a little gay? Like, what was going through your head?
You know, I've never worried about if they're gay or not.
You just go after them.
You know, if they like me and they want to pursue me, then
I'm always curious from the perspective of a more masculine presenting woman. Do you feel you have to let someone you're not sure about their sexuality make the first move, or do you kind of hang back to create that safety, or do you make it clear you're interested? Typically, like, I know it's a little off topic, but like, what's the vibe?
We could go to a whole level of human design on this, but it's my nature to be pursued. I prefer to be pursued, but I will drop little hints like, come get me, you know?
Yeah.
So like, I can never really tell when somebody's flirting with me. I just figure everybody's being friendly.
Yeah.
But so we split from that conversation to go to dinner. Like, she's going back to her cabin for something. I'm going to sit down with my best friend for dinner. My best friend goes, what was that? What's going on there? What's that energy? And I was like, I don't know. Why did you feel something? She's like, oh yeah, something's going on. I'm going to interrogate her.
She's a good friend.
We love a best friend. Yes.
At this point, she's a wing woman.
Yes.
Which is hilarious, but it's great.
So go ahead.
So we sit down at dinner, and that's what my best friend starts doing. She just starts asking her questions, like getting to know her questions. And I was like, yeah, check. Yeah, check. Cool, check. Yes. And she's hot. Like, this is going to be awesome. And then the part where she says, and my husband, and I went, and my whole heart sunk to my stomach.
No, I was not mentally prepared for this part. My heart is cracking. Oh my God. Why is this always the case? Okay. What happened next?
We know it ends well. It ends well. Okay, and sometimes since I just shared a very difficult part of my life from my first marriage and how that blew up and ended up, leaving me in the darkest place I've ever been. Sometimes when something like that happens, and I would say that if you're paying attention, it will definitely happen. You will know why you had to go through that in order to move through a similar situation in a completely different way.
Yeah.
So we're going to tell you how we the next day ended up connecting, but I just want to say about having been through what I went through with my first marriage, and now I'm in my second marriage to a man, which is very different than the first one and much more aligned on a lot of levels, but still not ultimately satisfying in the way that I now understand a relationship can be satisfying. And so it was like a full circle moment for me to be like, oh, I'm having these feelings for someone outside of the relationship that I'm in, and I know everything that doesn't work. Sneaking around isn't going to work. Being deceitful isn't going to work. Trying to make both situations happen isn't going to work. So how can I handle this completely differently than I did last time? And in a way, I am so grateful now when I reverse engineer that that experience, because I don't think I would have handled it as smoothly as I ended up handling it, which we'll talk about. But it's like it's like having a prize almost at the end of that. Really, it's like having to have run a marathon and getting a trophy at the end. That's the trophy, is that you are a stronger person who understands how these things can work, because you understand everything that doesn't.
Yeah. In that moment where you're experiencing connection with Ziron, was it like, oh, I'm gay and this is why all these relationships haven't been satisfying? Was that a click, or that didn't matter?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
Okay.
So the following day, let's cut to the following day.
Yes.
We do an exercise in the morning that's very powerful, and then
she comes into the tent as we were putting the chairs back and gives me this massive hug, and I'm going, oh, that must have been a really powerful exercise for her. That's nice. Okay. She's just giving me a hug because she needed to release that somewhere. Okay. And then all of a sudden I was like, you know what? I'm going to ask her to sit next to me. I just kicked my best friend out of her seat.
That's the best friend.
I'm doing this. So I'm not looking at her across the room, you know? Like I said, what do they say?
You can sit here if you'd like.
That was my, here's your bait. If you want it, come get it. I guess. Because it took every ounce of nerves for me to ask her to sit next to me.
And at this point, is this where you guys do that powerful eye gazing thing? I know this is like the famous moment. Okay. How does this happen? And is there attraction? What unlocks?
So the exercise was really to get people to understand that if you can let your guard down and look at each other deeply and just allow yourself to be seen and see the other person, then it can really create this unity and realize you're no longer in separation. You are all one. So we formed two circles, an outer circle and an inner circle. And the inner circle people would walk around one person at a time and really look and soul gaze into each other's eyes to really see the other person and allow yourself to be seen. And we had masks on. So the only thing you could really see was isolated was the eyes. So a lot of times we go up to people and we'd have to look down at their shoes to figure out even if we were looking at the same person or not. Like, who is this? You look completely different looking just at your eyes.
Yeah.
So because we were sitting next to each other, we were standing next to each other, and we went around the circle twice. So you know, the first time you were in the inner circle, the second time the other person was. And I go around to her first and I put my hands like on her face, you know, and I'm like trying to like stand real tall and strong and be like, see me, I know you want to see me. And I'm trying to project myself out there and nothing happens. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to go on to the next person now. And I go around the room and we get back to the beginning, and then it's her turn to come to me. So she comes and she's standing in front of me and she's looking in my eyes, and she puts her hands on my shoulders and I go to put my hands on her waist. What I didn't recognize in that moment was that she was wearing a dress that was cut out along the hips. Skin to skin. And all of a sudden I got electrical all the way down. And I remember going, oh, I hope she felt that too, because if not, that's really going to suck.
It's magical, like queer panic, just
completely like, oh no, what am I going to do now?
What did happen? What did you do?
So I felt the exact same electrical shock in that moment. And because we are in this environment where, like I said, I was extremely open energetically, and I'm claircognizant, which is a knowing. I don't see, I don't hear, I just know. And so when that skin to skin contact happened and I had that electrical shock the way that she did, I just knew, I had this deep knowing that we had spent many lifetimes together, and that in each one of those lifetimes, we had been in partnership and sacred union, and that we had been instructed by the forces that be, source, God, whatever you want to call it, to separate for some time and have our own individual soul growth. And we felt like I had this knowing that I thought that it was just going to be like a lifetime or two. And it ended up being a lot longer than that. So we had been kind of lost from one another for lifetimes between those partnerships. And we were told that we would be reunited when there was some really important mission to reunite us. So here we were on Earth, back together. It was a reunion. It was not a meeting for the first time. I understood why her voice sounded so familiar when I heard it for the first time, when her face just felt like home to me when I was looking at it, and then looking into her eyes for multiple minutes. This is not just like a 30-second exercise. Like, we are staring at each other. And by the way, we both have brown eyes, are very similar color. So it was like looking into my own eyes, but not.
Yeah.
It was this very intense, extremely loving, blissful energy that I felt. And it wasn't even like gay, not gay. Like, it was just like, my soul is home. I finally found you again. I have been looking for you for however many lifetimes that was. And so, of course, after I have this experience, I can't keep it to myself.
Yeah. How long do you hold it in for? 5 minutes or 5 hours?
Very long. It was not very long. It was on that break. She's like, "Can I tell you what I saw in that?" And I'm like, "Well, of course. I need to know." And then she tells me that story, and I'm like, "Oh God, she's crazy." Oh no. But at the same time, I'm like, because I've always had a level of discernment and skepticism when it comes to the woo-woo spiritual, side of things, because, so many people could be faking it, but there's real people out there. And so I've always been investigating what's real, what's not. So there was a part of me that was still like, okay, she's seeing this. I know I'm highly attracted to her. I know that electrical shock happened. What's going on? And let's not forget she has a husband at home. So let's not get your hopes up right now. But there was a moment in that retreat, not long after that, she was introducing herself to somebody and she was behind me. And I heard her say her full name. And it was like all the hair on the back of my neck stood up. Her full name was what the trigger was for me, that was familiar. She's supposed to have that name for a reason. That's why she came in with that name. So yeah, so we just continued the rest of the weekend, basically
orbiting around each other.
Everywhere I went, like, boom, there she is.
On purpose a little bit.
We were in the kitchen one point, and I was talking to one of my other friends, and I was like, I need to manifest I need to manifest a personal chef. And she goes, because I didn't know she was standing there. And she goes, what if you manifest a partner that loves to cook? And I immediately went, well, are you offering?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so now, Zsuzsi, you have to know, like, how long between this moment where you just have this knowing, you guys share it, there's a mutual thing going on, you're orbiting, how long do you wait before telling your partner, hey, dude, I met a woman? Okay, real quick, I need to tell you about WISP, an online healthcare service that is for the girls, gays, theys, and me. In fact, for 3 years, they have been a part of my daily regimen. I know many of you listening long to create beautiful, women-loving women relationships. And that, my dears, begins with excellent kitty care. Like, no offense, I don't know about you, but I personally don't want to be at a kitty cat cafe, if you know what I mean, that doesn't provide the freshest dessert for me to lick. So do unto others as you'd have them do unto you, and keep your kitty cat cafe fresh. With Wisp, everything from the consult to receiving meds is done from the comfort of your phone, and the company is proud of being inclusive, cost effective, and accessible for everyone. Wisp believes that you know your body better than anyone else, which means no more urgent care visits for issues such as UTIs, yeast infections, or STI treatment. You can save so much time not going to in person appointments or waiting in line at pharmacies. The free shipping will save you so much time. Or same day pharmacy pickup can have you feeling better faster. Before Wisp, I was prone to getting BV, but my kitty pH balance stays perfect. Chef's kiss now that I am on a consistent probiotic regimen. Ladies, this is so important. Personally, I subscribe monthly to Wisp Probiotics, Sexy Time Lube, and OMG Cream. It's like female Viagra. I also get D-mannose and boric acid vaginal suppositories as needed, so I'm prepared if something starts to fill off down there. Also, if you're about to meet a new partner from my lesbian dating platform, you definitely want to be tested before sleeping with someone new. You can order discreet online testing from your bed before you jump into bed. Go to the link in the show notes to learn more, or go to hellowisp.com and use my code SOPHIA for 15% off. That's code SOPHIA, SOPHIA, for 15% off all your kitty needs. You're welcome. Okay, back to the show.
I remember you coming up to me at the retreat saying you're not supposed to turn your world upside down or something.
Blow my life up.
Blow your life up.
Well, because I asked, I was like, okay, that's a beautiful story, or that's a beautiful thing to understand about our soul's history. But like, what does this mean? Because I didn't know. And the only message that I got in that moment was that I wasn't here to blow up my life. And I think in hindsight, what that really meant was, remember the first time this happened and how that really did blow up your life. Like, didn't have a place to live, didn't have a source of income. Like, it was just rock bottom to the max. Like, I've heard your story through your content, Sophia, and it felt very similar. Like, just leave everything behind with a suitcase and no plan and no real like lifeline other than think certain contingencies I had put into place so that I wouldn't like end up on the street. But that was blowing up my life. This wasn't going to be that.
Right.
So like I said, I had the tools. I had a lot more self-confidence. I had a lot more awareness around what I wanted. And so I didn't repeat the same pattern again. That's why we do the work, so that we're not repeating the same pattern again. And I think that we both felt like, okay, we're going to go home and like see what happens, because this is only like a 48-hour experience. I mean, it felt like 3 months, to be honest. Time and space like was not real in that retreat. But as soon as we got home, we were chatting via text, and we had made a point at some point after that eye gazing exercise to say, like, we need to take a picture together at the retreat. And we never did. So I was kind of like teasing her that we never ended up taking that picture. And so she just randomly sends me a picture from her desk. She's wearing a t-shirt and a hoodie and just like nothing crazy, right? Just a picture of herself from her desk. And this like lightning bolt like strikes me the second that I see this picture, and I just hear, that's my wife.
Wow.
It was like, and I was like, who said that?
I have angel bumps. Oh my God. You just knew. It was done deal.
It was a done deal. And then, so when we were talking, because we ended up having these like 6 hour long FaceTime conversations that were not even about getting to know each other. It was more about just like, where are you in your process? You know, like, where is your spiritual journey leading you to? How much work have you already done? And what do you want to do with the work that you've done? That kind of thing. And of course, everybody needs to kind of like give their backstory. It's like an interesting way to lead into feeling intimate with someone, which we've already did. We felt so close already. So it was
kind of like, what have you been up to since last time we saw you? How's Earth going for you?
But how did you tell the husband?
Well, okay, I just want to preface this with I already had a very non-traditional setup. So my husband and I did not live together.
Okay.
He has to live 45 minutes from where I live for work. And so we saw each other once or twice a week, and usually only for a few hours. What we were saying is that we were waiting until he retired in order to cohabitate. So as weird as that sounds, like, I thought I was being very modern and, you know, doing what was best for me within the marriage, because I didn't want to live where he has to live for his job, and he wasn't trying to get me to move. So I was very free, very open. Not that I was like obviously looking around, but the fact that we had all of these evenings that we could speak for 3, 4, 5 hours at a time made it much easier. So when I did tell him, it wasn't even in person, because, like, you know, human design helps me a lot when it comes to how to approach other people as well as how to love myself. And I just knew that it would be a lot more aligned for him to be able to sit with all of the information and have it in writing. So I wrote him an email, and I basically laid it out, and I said, I'm not asking for permission. I'm not definitively saying what's happening, but I'm going to pursue this relationship because I think I'm gay. And he called me pretty much right away and was like, are you okay? What's happening? This is so confusing. And I said, listen, this was not my intention. This was not how I wanted this to go. You know, like, when I said I do, I meant it. And here we are a few years later, and this is just what I have to do. Like, this is what's happening, and I am very sorry. So that happened, and a few weeks later, on a one-way ticket.
Wow. Wow. The lesbian way.
So we're still on our first date. I haven't left. That was months ago. We did go back to my house and get my car and my things, but
Wow, that is amazing. Holy moly. And it was just a knowing, and there was no like needing to get to know you because your souls had already known each other, and it was like, we're meant to be together. And
we're so aligned. It was quickly very apparent that how aligned we are and how much we think the same, and just everything it's so incredible, really, when you line up the way we do in our beliefs and values and the way we see our future.
I'm so curious because with what I do, I specialize in helping women find their life partner in a monogamous relationship. Now, are you two committed to a life of monogamy? Is that the path you're taking?
Oh yeah, I don't share.
I love it. I love it. And before this, Zsuzsi, would you have identified as polyamorous, or no, you just, yeah.
No, I lived in New York City for 14 years, and I have had many friends who tried that. Like, I really
Yeah.
want to say tried because I never saw it succeed.
Same. Except there are a few polyamory coaches I know where I'm like, you guys have your shit together. You know how to do this, but I just can't. Yeah. Never saw it succeed either.
I think because like what we're being taught is that this sacred union is a new level of love, and you have, in
Yeah.
order to come together sacredly in a union, you have to get rid of all of the human shadows, basically,
Mhm.
right? You have to get rid of all those old paradigms, all those old programming, and you have to be able to come together purely. So if there are polyamorous relationships that are working, I'm going to imagine that those individuals have done the work on an individual level to where they don't have that jealousy and
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
different, and that's their preference, and okay, but
Yeah.
our preference is us. I mean, it's been us for lifetimes. So
Mm, so beautiful. So what tools are you two using to make this your lifetime love and keep this lifetime love?
Mhm.
mm,
Well, I'm always going to be the biggest advocate of human design for relationships. It's a tool that most people use to help understand themselves first and foremost. And the reason why that's important in a relationship is because it helps with the advocacy. It helps you advocate for your own wants and needs that aren't necessarily like the wants and needs of your partner. So, an example that I use very frequently is that in human design, I'm a hermit. I'm somebody who needs to recharge my social battery um,
I feel
in
this.
in a space that is of my own creation. So, my office is one of those spaces that I love. And I used to not be able to advocate for that because I also saw myself as somebody who loves to socialize. There's this duality within all of us. And so in previous relationships, I would just get really annoyed and irritable when I needed that alone time. And frequently, I would pick a fight in order to get that alone time. It was super non-functional, you know, but it was the only way I knew how because I didn't have the language to be able to advocate for myself. And now this is like my baseline. This is what I lead with is it's not you. It's nothing to do with you. Like there's a lot of hilarious culture around like Velcroing when you're in a lesbian relationship, right? And how um, that uh, insulation between two people is so intense. But I knew from early on that, first of all, if I could spend a lot of time with my partner, it meant that it didn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like I need to be anyone else or put on a face or be particularly upbeat or happy around them. I can just be me. And that in and of itself doesn't drain my battery the way that being out in the world does. But then also to be able to say, like, I'm going to go for this walk by myself, or I'm going to go run this errand by myself, or I'm just going to be in this room alone. Nothing against you. You're not, I'm not mad. There's nothing to fix or anything like that. This is just what I need right now. So, this is just one very basic example, but we use human design every single day. It's like, I call it the sixth love language because it helps that communication piece and it helps us. I mean, I said I had a cheat sheet on you.
she did. I showed her at the retreat. I showed her just my basic chart because she said she's in human design, and the next thing I know, she's telling me when my birthday is and how I react to things, and she's guiding her questioning based on like things that I'm going, wow, never in my life has anybody known me this well, and you've just looked at a piece of paper.
I love it. Is this something that you do with your clients? Amazing. What is the, if you could explain in a nutshell to my audience what you do? Who are you helping? Are you helping couples? Are you helping single women? What does it look like? And are you using human design?
Mm. So our signature program is called Soulgasm, Heart-Led Relationships for a New Earth.
Ooh, I like it.
And there's different modules and there's different lessons and tools. Human design is one big piece of the puzzle. And what we say is that it is both for people who are in partnership already, because it can help smooth out some of those wrinkles that are potentially getting in the way of having a harmonious relationship. But it's also for single people because, you know, you want to clean the house before you invite someone in. Mm-hmm. And there is no way that we could have created this kind of partnership and this kind of relationship with ourselves and each other without these tools that we had way far in advance.
Yeah.
It's that individual sovereignty piece.
Yes.
Like
yes.
we said before, we've both been working on ourselves before we could even open up to see each other.
Mm.
I definitely believe that, like, before the universe can hand you your person, there's things you've got to move through. I love it. I'm so excited to have you two speak inside of Queer Country Club. I think this episode will come out right after, but just so excited. So for those of you listening who don't know, inside of my lesbian dating platform, I have guest experts, whether they're coaches, therapists, relationships experts, self-love, mindset, sexology, all the things that lesbians need to prepare for their future wife. And I'm so excited to have you two share. I know it's going to be just groundbreaking for women to prepare their hearts for their person. So it's going to be beautiful. Before we go, I'm curious, now that you are in QCC as a partner, and if you want to use their discount code, it will be linked in the show notes. If you want to join my monogamous lesbian dating club, you will want to use Zsuzsi and Ziron's code. So go ahead and look at it in the show notes. We're going to have it there for you. But I'm curious, even though you're taken, why would you have been most excited if you hadn't met each other to use the Queer Country Club to find your partner? What would have excited you?
Mm-hmm. Well, I just want to say, when we initially reached out to you, it was because we had seen that you had created this platform, and like immediately, first of all, I got it right away. You know, you're very clear about how you deliver that message, and the message that came through that really touched me specifically is that you didn't just create a place for people to meet each other and swipe and have these really impersonal experiences, or you know, a lot of people feel that they're getting lost in this wide world of apps and dating platforms, but you are very much about making it tailor-made to people, having it be a space to also grow and work on yourself, which, you know, like we're such big advocates of, obviously. And the fact that there is no swiping, that it's almost like a virtual country club where you could just go up to anybody and start talking to them because you like their vibe, you like what they're about, you like what they've been saying in the chat. So it's a more organic way to connect to people while also being a space to grow within yourself.
Definitely the organic, it just hit home for me, because I kept saying when I was going back and forth, whether or not I was ready to meet my person, it's going to need to happen organically. So not a lot of people, you know, it's hard to meet other people that have the same mindset as you do. So being able to have this community that you can go into and not only find your future wife, but you can get your family together in that community, because you make it a community event. So that is definitely somewhere where I would have been in there chatting and trying to get to know people and feeling everybody out and knowing that everybody was in it for the long haul, right? Like if I'm going to meet you and we're going to be together, we're looking for the same thing in a relationship.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing. It makes my heart happy because now this is my entire world, but it was a birthed as a passion project and honestly, selfishly for me to find my future wife. I was kind of collecting a database of top tier lesbians and realized, shoot, I should start offering this to everybody because I'm getting so many requests to match people and I can't physically match everybody. I'm one person. And so what if I invested in AI to help me match women in the community? And what if it was application based and you have to be monogamous and growth minded and not identify as a man and just all these things that would make it a little bit more challenge, just a little more challenging to come in so there wouldn't be scammers and people there just for hookups. So because we have a paywall, people have to come in, they have to apply. Once they are approved, they can choose a subscription. What's really cool is if you use Zsuzsi's and Ziron's discount code, you'll get to not have to pay that application fee. So if you're interested in taking advantage of that, go to the show notes. This is your moment. Ladies, this was so freaking beautiful. Thank you for sharing your story so vulnerably. The shadow parts, the light parts. I think so many times we hear people's stories and we just hear the light and we don't know what happened before and we don't know what it took to get to the beauty that is a whole healthy relationship. If you could leave my audience with one piece of advice, what would it be?
I'm going to share a piece of advice that I shared with a client yesterday. And she was like, this is exactly what I needed to hear because she's in kind of the thick of it. She's in the weeds of her spiritual awakening and her journey feels extremely difficult right now. But I told her, around the corner is the magic, so keep going, keep pursuing your own passion, keep learning about who you are and what you need, and keep that faith because there is so much unexpected beauty that comes with doing the work. I can't tell you what that is. I don't know where it will lead you, but it will lead you to unexpected places because when you step outside of the matrix, the universe conspires to give you exactly what you need.
So good. What about you?
I said it better myself.
Oh,
so sweet. I hope y'all are watching the video version of this podcast so you could see the chemistry. Y'all are precious. Okay, guys, if you enjoyed this episode, go follow them on social media. I'm going to have their handles below. If you're curious about working with them and preparing your soul to enter into a beautiful divine partnership in the future, you will want to work with them. Go look at the program that I have listed below in the show notes. And if you have any questions, I'm sure they can just shoot you a DM on Instagram or TikTok, right?
Yep, at Sacred 8 Roadshow.
Okay, awesome. Yes, that's another thing at Sacred 8, and the 8 is the number, right? Yeah, at Sacred 8 Roadshow is their shared handle. And thank you for the love that you are just exploding into the world. Thank you for sharing with my beautiful lesbians today, and everyone listening. Have a magical, magical day. There's magic just around the corner.